Okay, well, I understand that we can start. So, first of all, welcome, and thank you to be here for the meeting, for what is important for me and for you as well, I hope. We are talking, of course, about Botswana and our CBL-ACP, Chamber of Commerce. And what's important in this meeting is basically the meeting of two private sectors who are working together, hope to improve the business between the two countries in a win-win situation. So I have nothing more to say, but we have now to listen to experts who talk about the situation far more as I can. So once more, thank you and see you later.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President, for kind words. Good afternoon, Excellencies, honorable guests, friends of Botswana and CBL. It's a great, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure here to welcome you on this rather unique event we have today, as it is a hybrid one. Since COVID, not very much of those things has happened. And it's, of course, we are very pleased to have this done together with our colleagues from the embassy. My name is Tony VERBEKE. I'm head of the section for Southern Africa. I'm also chairman of SOLCO, which is an ICT integrator, responsible mainly for Africa and the Middle East, used to be part of Siemens. I will be one of the moderators today, and let me start with a short presentation of CBL-ACP. Our mission as CBL is to support Belgian and Luxembourg enterprises and entrepreneurs in their involvement in ACP countries. Our activities include events like today for conferences, business summit, and trade missions. We are a space for exchange and win-win networking. And we support entry to ACP markets, and we accompany entrepreneurs in their trade and investment development. What is it? 55 countries in Africa, 23 in the ACP zone, 1,000 opportunities to develop strategic partnership jointly. CBL, not a profit organization, accounts for 200 members and is active since 1964, almost 60 years. CBL forms an exclusive and influential network both in the ACP countries and of course also in Europe. Relevant presence we have in more than 30 countries with local business representatives. Same number of bilateral sections as active networks here in Belgium and Luxembourg. We have privileged access for our members at discounted rate to many activities and many programs. Why should somebody become a member of CBL-ACP? Strategic information, transfer of expertise and knowledge, tailor-made advice, and consultants which we have in our organization. Intensive network with other organizations in Belgium and abroad. We also have the promotion of Belgium and Luxembourg economic interests in those countries. And what's very important, our extensive network of geographical experts via unique Belgolux presence in those countries. Other benefits, of course, if you travel, can be negotiated special tariffs with the airlines, major airlines. We can help with the assistance for visa and consular services. We have easy access to the credit organizations in Europe and international entities in Africa. Mutualization of common interests and expertise amongst the business community active in ACP countries. And we have an influential network at your service. Our services, I'm not going to run through all the details of it, easy and direct access, individual target or collected trade, market service and key information, direct access to high-level delegations, including head of state, ministers, and also the embassies, practical assistance locally via our representatives, access, what is important, to information and public tender information, and we can, if necessary, intervene and lobby. So your interest in Africa is ours, and that's why we are here today, especially today, of course, for the discussions we have on Botswana. Let me now give the word, I don't know if he is available, our representative for Botswana, which is Mr. Goncalves. He is sitting in Harare, and I don't know if we have him as a contact.
I appear on your screen under Panamex, which is my email address, but I'm very much attending. So good afternoon to all, and thank you, Tony, for this introduction. So my name is Jean Goncalves. I'm actually based in Harare, where I'm talking to you from, but have been extensively involved in Botswana for a number of years. And I do have in Gaborone a business partner who is based in Gaborone. And if I have time later on, she is very much at your disposal also, should you have questions, or should you need the local contacts and local support from your chamber in Gaborone. My position, my regular visits and missions to Botswana, to be very plain, have been affected recently by the COVID situation, like a lot of you, I would imagine, and therefore regular visits to Botswana have been made more difficult because of that, which doesn't stop me from being kept informed, I would say, nearly on a daily basis as to what is happening there. But as I said, I'm currently based in Harare. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jean. I guess it's now time for Mrs. Tebatso Future Balancing, who is deputy head of the mission of Botswana. And she, together with me, will do the moderation of this event. I wish you a pleasant and a very fruitful meeting this afternoon.
Thank you very much. I will do my moderation from here. And a very good afternoon to everybody who is present in this room. I wish to welcome you to this very important event, whose purpose is to create awareness about investment opportunities in Botswana and to facilitate interaction and networking between experts, our investors, and the private sector at home. We welcome our guests, especially who are joining us online, and those who are joining us from Pretoria and from Harare. And we hope that through the collaboration that we are starting today, we will be able to make a very good and successful networks and event. A special thanks go to our co-hosts, CBL-ACP, for organizing this event. I believe that this is the beginning of a very special relationship between you and the embassy. I would also like, through you, to thank the investors who are here with us today and hope that the information provided will convince you to choose Botswana as your next investment destination. I also wish to thank the Ambassador of Belgium to Botswana, who is joining us from Pretoria, South Africa. His presence today is testament of the excellent and mutually beneficial relationship between Botswana and Belgium, and of course, Europe, especially now as we rebuild our economies post the pandemic. As the vaccine rollout continues in Botswana, we are gearing to reassert ourselves as your first choice for investment. We have also entered a new era of public-private partnerships in Botswana, which signals a greater role for the private investment. I also wish to thank our guests who are joining us from Gaborone, who will provide relevant and up-to-date information and answers to the questions that you have, with the hope that they will begin to pique your interest about the diamond that Botswana is, ready, responsible, and waiting for you to become part of our tomorrow. Allow me at this stage now to introduce my ambassador, Ambassador Samuel OUTLULE. He is Botswana's ambassador to the Kingdom of Belgium and head of delegation to the European Union. He is accredited also to the Italian Republic, the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, and the Kingdom of the Netherlands. The floor is yours, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Tebatso, for the introduction. I've been given a role to do three things, and I was telling the president earlier on that my role is to greet, to welcome, and to thank you. And you will notice that in all these three things, the you is more than the others. So you are very important people for all of us here at the Botswana Embassy, and of course, I believe to CBL-ACP. And we very much appreciate that you have set time aside to be with us here. I also wish to thank at the very outset those who are joining us from outside Belgium, in particular my colleague, the ambassador of the Kingdom of Belgium to Botswana and to South Africa, and to colleagues in the various institutions of Botswana government, the private sector, people that I know personally, and I wish to extend a hand of appreciation and deep gratitude to them for making it possible for them to be here to present and to answer the questions that are going to be presented by the participants, the private sector or government representatives who are attending this in person or online. I appreciate that they also have representatives of the government of Belgium, Mr. Brahim El-Beid of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who is a desk officer for Botswana. We are grateful that he has been able to be with us this afternoon. But let me begin formally to say we are indeed humbled as Botswana Embassy to have the opportunity to be with you this afternoon. I'm pleased to welcome you to this very important trade and investment promotion event held in collaboration, of course, with CBL-ACP. And today's event is under the name or the title, Doing Business in Botswana, Business, Climate, and Opportunities. I would therefore like to express our deep gratitude to CBL-ACP for jointly organizing this event with the Embassy of Botswana. And we look forward to more and a regular collaboration with the CBL-ACP on events such as this one. I also wish to make a special thank you to the ambassador of the Kingdom of Belgium and other Botswana Europe-based colleagues who may have been able to join us to connect from their respective offices all over Europe. And I also acknowledge the presence of CEOs and experts from various stakeholders from the capital, Botswana. I sincerely hope that their participation today will result in strengthened cooperation in activities with CBL-ACP. And I wish to assure CBL-ACP that in Botswana they have friends, they have partners who stand ready to work with them in the framework of the Botswana Investment and Trade Center, Business Botswana, Minerals Company Botswana, and several other entities that are leading in the area of business in the private sector. The objective of this event is to establish, as we have done, in a sense, a platform for exchanges on market opportunities between Botswana, Belgium, and Luxembourg, create awareness of investment opportunities in Botswana, focusing on sectors of strategic importance, as well as facilitate interaction and networking between experts, potential investors, the Botswana private sector, and the government of Botswana. In this respect, this event underscores the value of long-term structured cooperation between us, that is between Botswana, the private sector, the government, and CBL-ACP with all the stakeholders that are actively involved in both Belgium and Luxembourg. Botswana, Luxembourg, and Belgium share very good and excellent bilateral relations that are for the mutual benefit of all of us. And this has been the case since our independence about 55 years ago. We're a small nation, but one that has the ambition to develop its economy with the participation of the private sector from within and outside, such as friends from Europe, in particular Belgium, Luxembourg, and any other countries of accreditation. But what is important is to have the common goal of building partnerships, of benefiting individuals that have invested their hard-earned money in the private sector. Our trade relations, that is the trade relations between Botswana, Belgium, and Luxembourg, have always been anchored on the Cotonou Partnership Agreement, which was preceded by the Lome Conventions, as some of you would know. We also have an economic partnership agreement with the European Union, and we are also expecting that in the very near future, hopefully early next year, we would have a successor agreement to the Cotonou Partnership Agreement, which in the course of the negotiations, it has been agreed that it will be called the Samoa Agreement, which is a country in the Pacific. These agreements are important in shaping our economic relationships. Belgium, of course, is an important member of the EU, but is also an important partner of Botswana because both of us have an interest in the growth and development of the diamond industry. We have been involved in the production and the beneficiation and the sale of diamonds for a number of years. There is continuing partnership and cooperation between Belgium and Botswana. Some of the Antwerp-based diamonders are licensed to buy diamonds directly from Botswana, from the Diamond Trading Company, Botswana, and the Okavango Diamond Trading Company. So we do have a very strong interest for the mutual benefit in the area of the diamond industry. But not only that, there are other areas that we believe that we can grow. And this is why we we have this event to indicate to potential investors that there is more that we can do together. And certainly the shine that you can see in diamonds can actually be replicated in other aspects of the economy. We certainly have had challenges with COVID-19 pandemic, which has had an adverse impact on the economy. But as you know, there has been some progress, a measure of progress. We have been in undertaking vaccinations, and this has been having some potential beneficial impact. We are beginning to open up the economy, and I'm sure you will hear from my colleagues, the experts in the various organizations in Botswana, who will say more about this. But I can say that the government of Botswana has responded to the epidemic with the development of the Economic Recovery and Transformation Plan and strategies such as the Economic Diversification Drive and the Smart Bosses, which is a philosophy of how to get things done, especially in the area of digitalization, and thereby to enhance the diversification of the economy. We are very strong in this respect, and we are hoping that very soon you will hear a lot about how we have made advances in the area of digitalization and how this is beneficial to the way we deliver public service, the way we facilitate the small, medium size enterprises, and how we hope to enhance the growth of the economy and the transformation from a upper middle income country to a high income country, and of course to a knowledge-based economy. Botswana's Economic Recovery and Transformation Plan touches on key priorities, and this includes, amongst others, export-led growth, developing human capital, investment in infrastructure, building resilience and transformation. All these are the reason we are gathered here today. Having said that, let me conclude by stating that this trade and investment promotion mission is about business and seeking partnership. This is what we are about. And I believe that my colleagues from Botswana will say more about this. Our respective countries, that is Botswana, Belgium, and Luxembourg, and of course our partners here, the Chamber of Commerce of Brussels, Luxembourg, and the ACP countries are committed to this particular task. Our respective countries' favorable economic and political environment should pave the way for long-term and sustainable partnerships between our business people and private sector entities. Our speakers today are well armed to deliver important information on the business climate in Botswana. I once again wish to register my deep appreciation to them, the presenters, for having been able to find time from their busy schedule to be able to participate, to provide information, and to be ready to answer any questions. In closing, let me thank my team, the Embassy of Botswana staff in Belgium, for their sterling work in organizing this event and for making sure that Botswana is visible in all our countries of accreditation through dissemination of information on the Botswana economy. And of course, I must end by once again reiterating our deep gratitude to our partners, ACP, CBL-ACP. I say thank you, thank you, thank you for your collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you fruitful session, and I also thank you for having found time to be here with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for this very interesting expose you gave us on opportunities. Of course, we will hear more of it later this afternoon. I think it's time now to give the word to our Belgian ambassador to Botswana and South Africa, Mr. Didier VANDERHASSELT, and I would like to invite him to join us on the screen. I hope he's there.
Yes, good afternoon. Let me maybe first make sure that I am seen and I am heard before I start my speech.
Looks perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
perfectly.
yep.
Excellent. Your Excellency, Mr. President, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me first thank the President of CBL-ACP, Guy BULTYNCK, and His Excellency Ambassador OUTLULE, the Ambassador of Botswana in Brussels, for the nice words and the welcoming words today. I'm very pleased to take the floor for an introduction during the seminar on doing business in Botswana. And it's good to see that this event brings some of you together in person. We're a bit envious here from Pretoria not to be with you there in Brussels. The last 18 months have given us renewed appreciation for these opportunities to meet and to engage outside the virtual world. But today I'm still in the virtual world, but I will be trying to be as real as possible. I'm personally very grateful that this is a hybrid event, giving me the opportunity to participate online. Pretoria is indeed where the embassy is located, and from here we cover not only South Africa, but as has been pointed out by the ambassador and the president, almost most of the countries in Southern Africa, including Botswana. The bilateral relations between Belgium and Botswana are cloudless. These excellent relations exist since Botswana's independence. They are grounded in shared democratic values and a common commitment to good governance. Botswana is rightly regarded as a success story of post-independence Africa. It has a pluralist and democratic political system. With 11 peaceful elections since 1966, it is one of the longest running democracies in Africa. This strong record of political accountability is why Botswana remains such a partner of choice, not only for Belgium, but also for the EU. We see eye to eye on a number of issues. Good governance, as I mentioned, the importance of multilateralism, the fight against climate change, the respect for the rule of law, to only mention a few. Strong economic ties also link our countries. Botswana being Africa's largest diamond producer and Antwerp the leading diamond trade hub worldwide, it comes as no surprise that our trade relations are essentially focused on diamond. In that regard, Botswana has come a long way since it first started to produce diamonds, thanks to the decisive steps taken by the government. I'm referring to the diamond beneficiation strategy, seeking to add value locally with the upscaling of local processing of rough diamonds. Since then, the diamond cutting and polishing industry has created thousands of jobs in Botswana and is now one of the largest manufacturing subsector in the country. And I'm proud to say that Belgium is also part of this story. As a result of the excellent bilateral relations between Botswana and Belgium, our countries are linked through various agreements, and I would like once again to highlight two of these that are of particular interest to this audience. First, the Economic Partnership Agreement of 2016 between the EU and a few SADC countries, including Botswana. This reciprocal agreement guarantees full or partial liberalization. Goods can enter either the EU or the SADC market with no or limited tariffs and duties. Secondly, Botswana and Belgium have signed in 2017 an agreement for the avoidance of double taxation. For a number of years now, the government of Botswana has been seeking to diversify its economy away from its dependence on natural resources, an initiative we commend and we want to be part of. Foreign investment is one of the avenues that Botswana wants to use to achieve this diversification. To this end, the country has put measures in place to increase investment in a variety of sectors. I will leave it to the other speakers to explain them in detail, but I would like to highlight 3 that seem promising for our Belgian companies: energy, tourism, and pharmaceuticals. Regarding the energy sector, Botswana is now seeking to become a net exporter of electricity to address power generation shortages in Southern Africa with the introduction of solar power into its energy mix. Our expertise and innovative approach in this field could find a perfect market in Botswana, where sunshine is abundant and the government has put in place a supportive regulatory framework. The tourism market also offers interesting opportunities. Until now, Botswana's tourism market has been characterized by a high value, low volume approach, but the country is now more interested in expanding tourism services with mid-range offerings, opening interesting prospects for smaller companies. And last but not least, the pharmaceutical market has potential for major investment opportunities. Belgium is one of the foremost pharmaceutical areas in Europe, with a thriving industry, very competitive when it comes to research and innovation. Our companies could surely develop interesting and mutually beneficial partnership with Botswana in this sector. It is worth mentioning that all these opportunities present themselves in a favorable investment climate. Botswana is the economy with the strongest fundamentals in Southern Africa. The country is growing faster than the average economy in sub-Saharan Africa, and this dynamic has been supported by a stable institutional framework, strong governance, and a prudent fiscal policy. Botswana is a small market with a population of 2.2 million. However, it has the potential to leverage its position in the region to serve as a gateway to the Southern African market. With the entry into force of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement earlier this year, it is potentially the whole African market that is within reach. And given the stability of the country, Botswana is really an excellent choice for investors willing to cover the Southern African region. The size of the country may also be regarded as an advantage, and we know what we speak about. Entering a smaller market means that even small or medium-sized investors can be sure that the country will give them the attention they deserve. So let me finish here and let the other speakers take the floor, with the hope that this seminar will contribute towards diversified trade between our countries, as well as enhanced sustainable investments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Indeed, in Botswana, we celebrate the strength of our relations with Belgium, grounded on shared principles of democracy, human rights, and commitment to sustainable development for all. Thank you again, Ambassador, for highlighting these critical industries that are important for our development: renewable energy, tourism, and pharmaceuticals. The issues you raise, including the EPAS, double taxation avoidance agreement, signal a new beginning and for interesting opportunities for both Belgium and Botswana. The expert I will introduce now is the Regional Executive Director of the Botswana Investment and Trade Center. He's based in London. He's the key representative for all investment inquiries and will facilitate you until you are able to set up business in Botswana. The floor is yours, Mr. MOKGOSI.
Thank you very much, Program Facilitator. Allow me to do a presentation. And whilst I'm loading, let me also acknowledge the two excellencies, Ambassador OUTLULE and Ambassador VANDERHASSELT, and of course, allow me to observe the protocol. Let me know if the screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you once again. I'm going to be delivering a presentation on doing business in Botswana, but my presentation will be buttressing, the issues that were echoed by my two excellencies this afternoon. And in terms of the presentation outline, I will just quickly discuss issues that speaks to just Botswana at a glance so that you appreciate the key fundamentals that makes us to be alive, or our key value proposition as a country. Then, of course, I will speak to what has already been shared in terms of the trade data between ourselves and Belgium. Then quickly delve on some of the investment opportunities as outlined, and then speaks to investment incentives, and then we'll conclude with some of the value-added services that we offer as an entity. So in terms of who we are, you would agree with me that we are a relatively middle-income country compared to Belgium with a GDP of almost 451 billion. We are standing at euro, we are standing at a mere US dollar 15.7 billion as at 2020, with a capita GDP of 6,319. And when you compare to Belgium with a capita of 44,529, you will see why we really need to partner this afternoon. And in terms of our inflation, we have seen an astronomical rise in inflation out of the target that is set at 3 to 6% by the Bank of Botswana. And what is also interesting is that our interest rates are currently, a bit low. The bank rate stands at 3.75%, while the prime lending rate is at 5.75. And of course, our key trade indicators, in 2020, the economy was not doing very well. Our exports are dominated by the mineral sector, predominantly diamonds, while the key imports also include diamonds and other commodities. We believe that as a country, leveraging on the proposition that investors first look at domestic markets, and then they also look at key neighboring regional markets. We believe that Botswana has got a location advantage. We are very much land-linked with all those key regional integration efforts, starting with the Southern African Customs Union and as well as the Southern African Development Community, with trade instruments such as the SADC Trade Protocol, allowing for the trading of goods between our countries. So this is how other people see us, and we pride ourselves with some of those key metrics as was outlined by Ambassador. If you look at some of the metrics, the latest rating in terms of the credit rating by the Standard & Poor, which was accorded to us in September, we were given a BBB plus an A-2 for both short and long term. This is a stable outlook because now the S&P believes that the economy is going to rebound, premised on the diamond industry. And then, of course, our good credit ratings also are underpinned by a strong, robust and predictable institutional framework. We have labor market stability with a well-educated and trainable workforce. The literacy stands at 87.7% as indicated by the World Bank indicators. So I can confirm that Botswana economy was not spared the wrath of COVID-19. As you can see, in 2020, we experienced a negative growth rate of 8.5%. And of course, now the outlook seems to be positive. If you look at the key areas like trade, hotels, this were adversely affected, and also the mining industry. So this is where we were. In terms of the outlook, as I said, our economy is projected to grow at 9.7%. And then with the implementation of the economy recovery transformation agenda, we believe that there will be positive prospects, including in the tourism industry, as the global economy, gets out of the COVID situation. And then, of course, in the next slide, you'll also see data showing that there's recovery, including in the export of the diamond or in the mining sector. In terms of our export data, His Excellency VANDERHASSELT pointed to the key importance of Belgium to Botswana. Belgium remained the key destination of our exports in 2020, but look at how our exports had declined. They stood at $3.75 billion in 2020. And then also in terms of our import data, Belgium still remained the second key source market, particularly when you look at some of the data, as you'd see in the next. This were driven mainly by diamonds. And then other products that were formed the import data include food and beverages and tobacco at 13%, machinery, electrical equipment at 11%, chemicals and rubber products at 9%, amongst other key sectors. So this just confirms that the economy of Botswana is now beginning to come out. If you look at the 2020 and 2021 data, sorry, these are total exports. Exports to Belgium have improved drastically as they are driven by HS code 71 products, which are mainly diamonds. And then similarly on the import side, you will see a positive growth in 2021 to date compared to the entire year of 2020. So this just confirms that there will be robust growth in terms of the economic outlook. So I will not touch more on Botswana's multilateral trade agreements because they were echoed, that the relations between Botswana and Belgium are supported through the economic partnership agreements, which quotes as duty-free and quota-free market access into these regions. So now what are the investment opportunities that we are currently driving? I am happy to learn that Belgium is predominantly will be looking at 3 sectors, particularly energy, tourism, and pharmaceuticals. But I wanted to start with the agriculture sector. largely because of disruptions in supply side chains due to COVID. We learned a lot and have devised our policy thrust to spearhead the agriculture sector in terms of commercial agriculture and agro-processing. Some of the opportunities will be discussed by Mr. MOGARA, I believe will be around the Zambezi integrated agro through SEZA. So I will skip that one. There are different facets or value chains that we can look at within the agriculture sector in Botswana, including horticulture, fresh fruits, imports. Data seems to confirm that South Africa has been the key source market, particularly for our fruits, while we seem to be doing a bit better on the vegetable side. So data shows that in 2019, we imported worth $29.5 million of fresh fruits. And notably, this were apples, bananas, amongst others. So these are some of the opportunities where we want to reverse the import bill and then have more plantations for fruits and vegetables in Botswana. If you look at the dairy production, for example, milk production as per provided for by the Ministry of Agriculture stood at only 8 million liters in 2019, but the imports were 38.9 million liters. So the milk demand stands at 65 million liters. And then we have done the value chain analysis within the sector, where it cost the investment opportunity at around 1.83 billion. Just the dairy production alone. And then in terms of the leather sector, you would note that these are a byproduct of meat industry, where we produce around 350,000 hides, and then 80,000 hides from sheep and goats. And these are exported in semi-processed form. And then we also see that only 2.6% of these commodities are processed into final goods. So we believe that there are opportunities around the upgrading product quality in terms of the tanneries and finished leather goods, amongst others. Now getting into the key sector of interest to Belgium, which is the health sector and pharmaceuticals. We have made an analysis of the private hospitals in Botswana. Currently, we have around 5 private hospitals with a total bed count of 588. But when you look at the key destinations for tourism, which is Maung and Kasane, or around those 2 dots, we don't have private hospitals, but the aspirations is for Botswana to venture into medical tourism. And this is an opportunity for the Belgian health sector to really scope into investment opportunities around possibly these 2 places where they can align and set up tailor-made private entities to meet the growing needs of the tourism sector. And then in terms of the pharmaceutical market, the pharmaceutical market, of course, for Botswana is still very low. I think it's considered a greenfield opportunity. And to the Belgian investors today, because this is a key sector of interest, you will note that in 2020 the market reached a value of US $180 million, and then it was up 6.5 on year-on-year average in local currency terms. And when we look at the forecast up to 2025 or 26, we see a positive trajectory, and the pharmaceutical market is expected to grow at an annual growth rate of 6.8 in bullet terms to reach around $225 million. And we believe that there is capability for Botswana to really host this sector and develop this sector, particularly where we have demonstrated capability with the existence of one of our key companies, Botswana Vaccine Institute. You can read more about it at a later stage through that link. And then in terms of other priorities, I will look into the energy sector, because this is also of key interest. What Botswana has done in this case is that now we have developed the integrated resource plan. It's a 20-year plan that gives confidence to investors that want to venture into this energy mix to position themselves. In the current fold, we have about 135 megawatts for solar PVs, which is expected to be concluded by 2022. These are tight grid projects which are currently under procurement, and then we also have that coal bed methane as well in the next which will be commissioned by 2025. It's also under procurement. And then you can also look at the 200 megawatt concentrating solar plant. It's expected to be commissioned by 2026, and procurement will start by 2021 according to the energy resource plan. And then, of course, we are looking at the 300 coal-fired plant by 2026, 50 megawatt wind by the year 2027, of which procurement to start in 2024 after wind resource mapping is complete. And then lastly, we have the 100 solar PV by 2027. Other opportunities also that were highlighted, which are of key interest, will be in the tourism sector. This is one key sector that we are also in collaboration with our sister organization, Botswana Tourism Organization. We are highly driving, particularly where we want, as I discussed earlier, for investors to set up hotels and lodges, and notably to grow the medical tourism industry for Botswana. So this is where we are. We are happy to provide a more value proposition to those that are interested to venture into these sectors. And then other key sectors, we are looking to increasingly grow the manufacturing, as you see, largely driven by the automotive components and parts. I've discussed the import bill in the previous slides, where our import stands at 6.29 billion. And if you look at the composition and the government strategies for diversification, food and beverages are some of the areas people can look at, including processing, machinery and electrical equipment, which forms 11% of that import bill, then chemicals and rubber at 9%. And then, of course, because of our location, we want to position ourselves as a cargo and logistics center. There are other projects that will be in the offing, including the rail projects to link Botswana and the neighboring countries. And we have discussed the fundamental macroeconomics. We want to position Botswana as the go-to or the financial services hub in the region. And this allows for investors to set up a variety of structures under the IFSC framework, including banking operations, reinsurance, private equity funds, BPO, business processing, and call centers. These are some of the many activities that we want to position Botswana to set up. You will also see some of the special incentives that would facilitate the development of this sector in Botswana. So Excellency discussed the key instruments which are of key to them, double taxation avoidance treaties with Belgium and Luxembourg is one of those. And then in terms of incentives, what we are driving or how we are seeking to attract investors to be competitive, we've got a corporate tax of 15% for manufacturing IFSC Innovation Hub and 5 to 10% for SPEDU region. I will not speak to the incentives around special economic zones because MOGARA is here. For the other sectors outside of those mentioned, the corporate tax is 22%. And the VAT, it's 14%, not 12%, where the maximum personal income tax stands at 25%, with possible tax holidays of up to 10% under development approval order. And then, of course, under the Southern African customs duty rebates provisions, you can import duty-free for manufacturing and agricultural machinery and equipment. And then when you play into the IFSC, as you have seen, no exchange controls. Companies that play there are zero rated for VAT, and then they're also exempted for withholding taxes when distributing to non-residents, amongst others. And then we allow for companies to train labor, and they will get up to 200% tax on rebates when they submit their tax returns. There's a special region in Botswana called SPEDU, as articulated, where it has some special incentives. We want to redevelop it after it demise from, after the demise of the life of the mine. It offers special incentives, as you would see, including rebate provisions under Schedule 470.3, as provided for by the tariff or customs area. And then, of course, they offer you 5% corporate tax for first 5 years and then 10% thereafter. So in terms of the investors from Belgium, when they want to scope for investment opportunities in Botswana, we facilitate all the programs for them for free. And then, of course, some of the investor valued added services under Botswana One-Stop Service Center, as outlined below, including, assistance with company and business registration, industrial and commercial land, factory shells identification and provision, opening of bank accounts, entry visas, work and residence permits, and exemptions. And what you need to do, we will share the investment criteria with you, where you submit a business plan for you to be registered with BITC. The minimum threshold for any project that we service would be at 4 million pula for foreign investors, and then it's 1 million for domestic investors. But most importantly, we encourage Belgian companies to enter in joint venture opportunities with the local ones. Let me stop here for the sake of time. I will be happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, MOKGOSI, for providing us with this important data of our trade and investment activities and the opportunities that lie ahead, and information on sectors that are important for potential investors from Belgium. Our next presenter is Mr. Lonely MOGARA, the Executive Director of the Botswana Special Economic Zones, who will share with you what SEZA is currently doing to offer investors developed infrastructure, state-of-the-art technology, beneficial intersectoral linkages, improvements in economics of scale, and specially trained skilled labor force and targeted economic incentives. The floor is yours, MOGARA. I've been told that we are running behind time, so I would request you to be cognizant of the time. Thank you.
Thank you and good afternoon, Madam Moderator. As introduced, my name is Lonely MOGARA. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Special Economic Zones Authority in Botswana. Let me start off by recognizing the President for CBL-ACP and His Excellency, Mr. Samuel OUTLULE, His Excellency Didier VANDERHASSELT, BBCO, Mr. MOLEELE, all panelists here present, I recognize you and allow me to say all protocol observed. Mr. MOKGOSI covered a lot of ground. He represented the investment-facing institutions very well, investment-facing institutions in Botswana very well. Here I'm talking about the Special Economic Zones Authority and also SPEDO. I will focus mainly on the growth poles here in named Special Economic Zones. Where is it? Okay. The Special Economic Zones Authority is here to establish, develop, manage and regulate special economic zones nationally in Botswana. And over and above that, to create a conducive business environment for both local and foreign investment. And we are also here to develop primary infrastructure, roads, utilities, sewages, and bandwidth, to name a few. And these are critical leveraging points for the development of economies. And we do this by partnering with the private sector through private and public partnerships. As we progress on this delicate journey, we pride ourselves in facilitating premier investors. I will outline what I mean by that in subsequent slides. Premier investors through our one-stop service center. We ensure that the investors are looked after and their needs are met. We have very supportive regulations in place to meet that. In Botswana, we are developing themed, vibrant, modern, smart cities. And this is where we align very well with Belgium, who are looking at mostly companies that are playing in the innovation space and the ICT space. We would want to ensure that our special economic zones are ICT enabled. And that way we'll be able to leapfrog competition going forward. We are currently promoting a 8 special economic zones, and I will elaborate and also try and indicate the proximity of this. We are looking at one which is focusing on meat and leather, and we are also looking at diamond beneficiation and logistics, some of these opportunities Mr. MOKGOSI covered in great detail. I won't go through those statistics. We are also looking at financial services, and I should hasten to also emphasize that we will be anchoring these financial services, special economic zones, through the multi-commodities exchange platform. We are also looking at oil and gas. We are looking at base metal beneficiation, looking at industrial production of industrial steel, which is key in the development of economies. Earlier on, Mr. MOKGOSI spoke about the agricultural sector. We have one zone which is focusing on horticultural produce, just to ensure that we arrest the high import bill. You would have seen in his subsequent slides where he analyzed our import bill. We're also looking at mining and logistics, and then we produce cereal in one of our special economic zones called Panamatenga. We are continuing to solicit investors in this area through what we call contract farming. Now going into the details of the different special economic zone. Yes, the meat and leather city is on the southern side, lower southern side of Botswana, and we will be ensuring that companies are able to now access the European market, where we are able to supply products duty-free and quota-free, as highlighted by Mr. MOKGOSI earlier on. And then we have got 2 special economic zones in the greater city of Gaborone, where we are looking at diamond beneficiation, and it aligns very well with some of the good initiatives that are currently running in your industrial space. Being mindful of time, I'll move on to the yes, and Mr. MOKGOSI did indicate elaborately on the different sectors that we focus on. Our different special economic zones will be looking at onboarding investors in the agro business space, in the water management space, the energy space, and the applied ICT space. We are ready to receive you. Our master plans are ready, and these cover detailed data with regard the different business opportunities in these different sectors. We have state-of-the-art infrastructure in place. Here we are looking at the primary infrastructure, your roads, your bandwidth, water systems, sewerage, and so on and so forth. We are ready to onboard investors. We have already done the SEA, or the strategic environment analysis. Investors will, when they come to Botswana will only conduct the management plan. What type of investors are we onboarding? We are looking at global leaders investing a minimum of 200 million, exporting 100%, because we are here to also try and substitute the import and arrest the high import bill. So in partnership with these companies from Belgium and Greater Europe, we'll be able to address this challenge that we are facing as a country. And these business opportunities, as per the business master plans that we'll share with investors as and when we onboard them, you will see that they have got healthy return on investment figures. We are also looking at onboarding companies with a high business sophistication index. These are companies that already know what it takes to penetrate markets. They understand business, and they are able to help us leverage on their robust business networks. And they are also ready to partner with Botswana nationals through joint ventures or extended business clusters, or also through just backward and forward linkages. We are looking at companies that have got a sustainable business growth model. Here we are looking at job creation, technology transfer, and also these companies, they should emphasize more on export. Earlier on, Mr. MOKGOSI highlighted the different investment incentives. Here, I would want to emphasize just on a few that investors will be very much interested in. The corporate tax for SEZA investors stands at 5% in the first 10 years, and then 10% thereafter. In the national territory, Mr. MOKGOSI has already highlighted that. What is of interest to investors in as far as setting up in the Botswana Special Economic Zone? I've already highlighted the world-class infrastructure that we have put in place, but long-term, we will also be partnering with some of these premier investors or developers, and we will allow them to run on long leases, 99-year leases, and with this, they'll be able to, in partnership with ourselves, to provide inner roads, utilities, drainage, sewerage, and high-speed internet for the last mile investors. We also provide pre-built factory shells, and going forward, we also provide bonded warehouses. And it is also important to highlight that we are able to now roll the red carpet in as far as setting the businesses in Botswana through our one-stop service center. Some of the different deliverables of the one-stop service center have already been shared by Mr. MOKGOSI, where we will be able to open your bank account and any other services that you may need. It's also important to emphasize on the location of Botswana vis-a-vis SADC, SACU, and Africa at large, and also the globe, because looking at the special economic zones, which are emphasizing more on exports, and partnering with these mega players who already have those robust networks, we are able to reach not only Greater Africa, but we are here to provide you with the necessary raw materials, with the necessary skills that Mr. MOKGOSI has already emphasized on, and also the market, SACU market, the Greater Africa, which is standing at over 1 billion people. What is it that you would expect from us when we onboard you as an investor? We would request that you submit a business proposal, and then once we are happy with that, we'll take you through the different stages which I've highlighted there. Thank you very much for receiving me. I hope I didn't take too much time. Thank you, moderator.
Yes, indeed, sir, you did not take too much time. And thank you very much, MOGARA, for the very rich presentation about the potential opportunities present in the 8 economic zones in Botswana. Mr. MOGARA and his team, I believe I'm speaking for you when I say that you stand ready and eager to continue to share this information and more with the presenters who are here with us in the room and who are joining us online. The next presenter is Mr. Robson MUGOMBA, the Acting Chief Executive Officer of Minerals Development Company Botswana, which is an investment company that holds and manages mining and mineral assets for the government. He will share with you opportunities at his company. The floor is yours, Mr. MUGOMBA.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, also good afternoon. Kindly allow me to acknowledge that all due protocol has been observed by the previous speakers in the interest of time. What I will do is share with you a presentation. Just 2 seconds. I'm not sure whether you can see it.
It's coming, I hope. We see your name there.
Okay. Anything yet? No?
Not yet.
Let me try
That's
again.
MUGOMBA. Now it's there.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'll be brief. I understand I have 10 minutes, but what I'll try to do is just to whet your appetite in terms of some of the mining and mineral opportunities that we've uncovered or come across here in Botswana. And then obviously, if you need more information, we can engage or connect offline. Minerals Development Company Botswana, our mandate is to hold the government's mining and mineral assets, some of them, with a commercial lens. We are not a development entity. We actually invest in order to generate attractive financial returns for the government. And then those returns are then given to the government to then do what it needs to do in terms of pursuing its imperatives in Botswana. In terms of our vision, it is stated there, we want to be globally competitive in a commercial way. And we want to contribute meaningfully to the economy of to the Botswana economy. We are an active shareholder, so we don't invest and then sit back and wait for returns to come to us. We actually do what we can based on our interest in particular entities to actually influence strategic direction and so forth. But we don't get involved in the day-to-day operations of our investees. We believe that we are innovative. We have to be. The mining landscape is changing. There are numerous headwinds that we must now deal with as part of investing in the mining sector, one of which was mentioned by His Excellency, around managing climate change. And we believe that there are some interesting opportunities in Botswana that actually support the pursuance of managing carbon emissions. And we'll talk about those shortly. For us, job done will be if we can build a very resilient investment portfolio for the government that can withstand changing business cycles, unlike what we are currently seeing, where up to 90% of exports are coming from only diamonds. And we believe that we can play our part in discovering alternative revenues in mining, though, but alternative revenue sources to assist with the diversification objectives set out in the National Development Plan of the country, as well as the Vision 2036 plan as well, whereby the government wants to diversify and be more resilient in terms of the earnings that the country generates. This really is just to show you that we are a commercial enterprise. We apply an investment model in a very diligent and disciplined way, just like any other private say equity firm or asset manager would. We screen, we rank, we perform due diligence reviews, we check if we've got capital, we check if we can manage assets properly, and then we can then invest into the various assets. I think it's just to show you that indeed we are a commercial enterprise. In terms of the mining landscape, I think this is what is perhaps more important today. I will talk not to all of them, but some of them, particularly with the focus of the audience, which I understood to be energy and pharmaceuticals. I'll do what I can to flash those that I believe could be interesting opportunities for them. Obviously, these are not necessarily our own targets. We would have to introduce you to the various owners of these opportunities who may or may not be entertaining potential suitors, but we'll do what we can to introduce you to them. And then secondly, this information is generally widely available through the Botswana Chamber of Mines. But if you need anything beyond what's here, please contact us and then we can discuss. Some of these assets we have, or potential assets, if I may say so, we have had a look at them as well at different times. So I'll share information that we can to the extent that it is public. Firstly, the takeaway from this slide is that there is a vibrant mining sector in Botswana, which is participating right through from exploration through to production. So sometimes I think the mining sector in Botswana is seen as only being Debswana, which is the unique and very successful triple P collaboration between De Beers and the government of Botswana. This is Debswana. And I think that is what is well known in terms of the mines owned by Debswana, Jwaneng and Orapa. Some of the most valuable mines by value, but there are others and there are other commodities. I think that's the takeaway from this slide, that Botswana is not just about diamonds. There are other commodities that have been developed or are being developed. And also that there are multiple projects at different stages of the mining life cycle. If I may start from the right, you've got quite a few diamond assets that are in care and maintenance. Let me just see if I can. Yes. My point is that there are a few diamond assets which are in care and maintenance. Some have been recently involved in some transactions and have been bought by new investors. But we hope that there should be some traction here, given what we're seeing in the diamond sector in terms of its recovery. I think if you look at what De Beers is doing right now, it's hitting some of its multi-year highs in terms of sales. And we hope that that will steer some developments, and some of these assets that are in care and maintenance can actually come out of care and maintenance and become producing assets. We've got another asset here, which is called BCL. BCL is an old mine which is in final liquidation. However, it does have a resource in terms of nickel and copper in some of its shafts, but needs some considerable amount of capital. The liquidator there is entertaining a potential suitor that has been given exclusive rights to evaluate and then perhaps submit an offer to purchase parts or all of that BCL estate. But the point here is that it is a nickel and copper asset, which lends itself quite nicely to the battery and electric vehicle developments that we're seeing worldwide. If that asset can come out of liquidation, I think it will do very well to support Botswana's credentials in terms of producing the battery metals that are required in the form of nickel. And we think that there could be cobalt there as well. But again, it's one has to do some exploration there to discover if there is. And also Tati nickel is linked to the BCL estate. It is in Francistown, and it's a copper nickel, also a former asset that is in final liquidation. I won't talk much about the diamond assets here, except to say that these are world-class assets, as I said earlier on. In fact, Karowe mine here, which is owned by Luxembourg, I'm sure in Belgium you know very well about that. It's yielded 25% of the world's largest diamonds in the last few years, and have done phenomenally well for themselves. Recently, they got their mining license extended by another 25 years, and they are now going into underground mining. So it's quite exciting for them there as well. Komekau is a copper asset, copper mine, sorry, that has recently started production. They are primarily focused on copper and silver. Obviously, copper is important because electric vehicles, you'll be using anywhere up to 5 times as much copper in electric vehicles than you would use in internal combustion engines, petrol and diesel. So copper is quite important, and I think you will see quite a number of other copper assets in the form of Moana has been around, but I understand that it's an open pit mine that I think the owners are trying to see whether they could ramp up there. We have another project called Project Mateo. It's in the Khansi area. It's a copper asset. Again, they've just recently been licensed, and they should be looking to developing their mine pretty soon. So copper, you will see quite a number of other copper assets as well in the presentation, and it's just talking to the support that is required in the electric vehicles and battery. Botswana does have coal assets in the form of Moruapule coal mine and Mineji. These are the only operating coal mines in Botswana. Between them, they've got the capacity to produce about 4 million tons of coal. Primarily, I think their target is the region, whereby if you look at South Africa, for example, up to 80% of its electricity production is still coming from coal, although there are obviously a transition that is developing towards renewables, but that will take time. And in order to continue to develop economically, you do need power, and there is a window for coal, but it is narrowing very fast. And I think some of these organizations like Mineji and MCM will start to have to look at themselves to see whether they'll be sustainable given the coal headwinds that are shaping up. There was talk earlier about wanting to know about pharmaceutical opportunities. We have looked at potash. It's quite an interesting asset. They produce soda ash and salt and have an opportunity to potentially treble their revenues over the next 9 or 10 years by expanding into fertilizer production and bitterns. And we think that there's a wonderful opportunity there for somebody who's got that pharmaceutical or chemical appetite to work with potash to the extent that they are open to investors to grow that particular asset. So again, a very interesting asset for those that are in the chemical space, if I may say. So they've got a huge brine resource in an area called Soa. And again, as I said, a very interesting asset. I also wish to talk a little bit about iron ore. There are 2 particular assets here that I wish to talk about. One of them is Ikongwe. They are talking about developing their mine at the moment. And then there's another one, which is early stage, which is called Sodilo Resources. All this is public information. They are focusing on iron. Ikongwe look like they will be able to produce very 65% iron contained in their ore body, which is quite interesting. That is such a rich ore body. So again, a wonderful opportunity here to potentially contact them and see whether one could develop, collaborate in terms of iron opportunities.
Excuse me, MOGOMBA. I think your voice keeps on going up and down. I want to predict that maybe you are not on the mic.
Yes, I'm just speaking to the mic on the computer.
Please go ahead. I was just
Okay.
alerting. Yeah.
Okay, no, thank you so much. So that those are some of the interesting opportunities that we have in iron ore. But last but not least, I wish to also talk about Guiani Metals. They have a manganese resource further down south in Botswana. It is a battery grade manganese, and they are presently, I think, concluding their feasibility studies. And this lends itself quite nicely for those that are looking for exposure in terms of transition to battery and the renewables, of which manganese forms the core of certain battery technologies. So I think Guiana is one of those opportunities that we believe could be interesting for those that are looking for that sort of exposure. So I think the point here is I can't go through all of this in the time that we have, but it was just to show you that there is a wide variety of opportunities in Botswana, transcending through through the mining life cycle in the various stages, and also that they are across different commodities. Last but not least, though, I wish to talk about an infrastructure project that our counterparts at Botswana Railways are working on, which would really be enabling to the mining industry in Botswana. Presently, the existing network has got some constraints, but if we could get a linking central part of Botswana into South Africa, that would really enable the mining sector in ways that are very useful, given that quite a lot of the commodities that are being produced leave the country in bulk form, either as concentrates or otherwise. And this rail link would really be enabling in terms of cutting the costs relating to the logistics of taking those those concentrates to the market. I think, moderator, I will pause here, but it was really just to whet the audience's appetite in terms of the opportunities that are there in Botswana. They are wide, there are many across different commodities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think as we are running rather late in time, I suggest we go quickly over now to the next two speakers who are giving us an interesting information on doing business in Botswana. We have two interesting speakers who really know the market, can give us a very good insight. First one is Jord van WASSENHOVE from the Antwerp World Diamond Center. And as we have heard how important diamond is for Botswana and for Belgium, I think it should be a very interesting thing to see how to do business in Botswana from Belgium here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. VERBEKE. I would start off by thanking, obviously, the CBL-ACP and its president, Mr. BULTYNCK, for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure. And the AWDC, the Antwerp World Diamond Center, is the official representative of the Antwerp Diamond Center. And we are a proud member of the CBL-ACP, and I'm honored to serve as a member of the board of directors. Your Excellencies, esteemed guests, it's an honor to be here and among you and say a few things about the special relationship between Belgium and Botswana regarding the diamond sector, which has been briefly touched upon quite a few times. If I can see the presentation in front of me, there is a very good quote to start off this presentation by Henry Kissinger: "A diamond is a chunk of coal that breathes really well under pressure." I'm quite happy to elaborate on what's been mentioned a few times already regarding the beneficiation strategy that a few key companies within the Antwerp diamond sector are very happy to support wholeheartedly. I'm going to slightly, if you go to the next slide, very briefly, because it's a very complex sector and I don't have enough time to go over the specificities of our brilliant sector, but it is quite rare, diamonds, in the places where you can mine them. And Botswana is very proud, I think, to be the second biggest producer worldwide, with $3.3 billion yearly on average. Next slide, please. Most importantly, diamonds are very good at doing good. It's not something that has been emphasized enough. But it's very clear that in northern parts of Russia, Canada, and Southern Africa, Botswana being a very important country in this regard, obviously, people depend on the mining industry. As you can see, the diamond industry and annual contribution to the African economy amounts to around $7.6 billion year on year, which is enormous. 10 million jobs globally and access to education, healthcare, housing and food for 10 million people. Next slide, please. And a very good quote to elaborate on this and to stress how important this is by former President Festus Mogae of Botswana in 2006. For our people, every diamond purchase represents food on the table, better living conditions, better healthcare, safe drinking water, and more roads to connect our remote communities and much, much more. I'm going to briefly touch upon the special relationship between Antwerp and Botswana on the next slide. As you can see, each year, around 30% of total Botswanan diamond export value is exported directly to Antwerp to be traded there, which amounts to $1.2 billion last year, even in very stressful and impactful COVID times. Botswana, which has been briefly touched upon, which is a 50-50 endeavor between the Botswanan government and De Beers, is the largest producer with around 50% of total Botswanan production. But also the, something else to stress, De Beers, since COVID times, we're very proud to, because it's obviously very difficult to get long-term clients into Botswana, have been holding their sites, which is a the regulated or the specific sales moments that they have maybe around 10 times a year to be held in Antwerp and other trading centers. Specifically, and more importantly, Okavango Diamond Company, ODC, which is 100% owned by the government of Botswana as a sales option on 15% of Botswana production. And also they market 100% of their of this revenue in Antwerp via tenders. And then to be more in detail, to go into more detail about specific companies within the Antwerp diamond sector, and many more, but these are the, one of the most important ones. One of the largest concentration also of the Beers side holders, so long-term clients, including Plutchnik Diamond Company. And they are very proud to possess and manage a diamond manufacturing, a very big one, diamond manufacturing facility in Botswana. And then also something that has to be mentioned, Lucara Diamond, which is in charge of the very famous Karowa mine, and very famous for producing the largest diamonds in the world. They have a deal for the next 3 years that all diamonds larger than 10 carats are to be cut and polished by HB Antwerp. And then on the next slide, I'm going to briefly touch upon why Plutchnik Diamond Company is very proud to have their operations in Botswana. It's one of the oldest, largest family-owned diamond companies in Antwerp, and it's a very large diamond manufacturing hub in Botswana. And their motto, and something that they are very proud of, is building sustainable local economies for a brighter future. Since, obviously, Botswana wants to create a healthy, sustainable and diverse economy for the generations to come, and in doing so, Plutchnik contributes to the long-term economic development by polishing locally in Botswana. But not only that, since they know it's very important to have a diverse economy, they help staff develop skills that go beyond diamond polishing as a whole: sales, marketing, accounting, etc. And on the next slide, I'm going to briefly touch upon HB Antwerp, which is a relatively new company established in last year in the middle of the COVID crisis by experienced diamond traders. They use blockchain to document every step in the value chain, so from mine to market, and have a very good partnership with the Luxembourg Diamond to cut and polish all diamonds above 10 carats from the Koen mine in Botswana. As you can see on the right, there's a very famous example, the second largest diamond ever to be unearthed, 1,756 carats. 1 carat, for your reference, is around 200 milligrams. So a huge diamond to be cut and polished here in Antwerp. More importantly, HB Antwerp believes in the economic potential of Botswana and wants to combat the high youth unemployment rate. And in doing so, they have recently launched a very good initiative that I'm going to briefly touch upon, called the HB Innovation Lab in cooperation with WOMHUB, aimed at engineering and technology students and graduates, mostly women. The next slide. WOMHUB is a boutique Pan-African incubator for female-led innovation in STEM, so science, technology, engineering and mathematics, and in this case, manufacturing. WOMHUB works to design and implement programs for clients which provide a holistic offering of business services with the purpose of building diverse supply chains, entrepreneurship ecosystems, and workforces ready for the future. And in this sense, they recently launched with a 30 participants, again, mostly women, engineering and technology students and graduates, which will help them develop more access to resources when it comes to innovation, leadership, and entrepreneurial skills, entrepreneurial being entrepreneurial skills within an organization. But since they think it's very important that these young high potentials in Botswana receive skills that can be used in the rest of Botswana and different other sectors, they make sure that they invest a lot of effort and money into this. Also, enhanced confidence in public speaking and networking, alongside a greater understanding of the practical applications of engineering, and obviously, and quite importantly, the opportunity to be recruited by HB Antwerp upon completion of the program in January 2022 for their future holdings in Botswana. And again, just to be sure, because I see that it's not entirely on the screen, but their vision is to create a meaningful, positive local impact by providing not only training, but also jobs as we look to usher in the next generation of skilled professionals in the diamond industry. And we are particularly focused on supporting innovation and creating gender parity in this sector. And then as a conclusion, and some of these things that I'm going to conclude with have been fortunately also been touched upon by previous presentations. And since I did not have the opportunity to witness them, this is a very good opportunity to see that indeed the experience that our companies have in Botswana match the marketing. So a stable, constructive government resulting in a stable and predictable business environment. And in short, as counsel to future Belgian businesses who want to invest in Botswana, Botswana welcomes and supports greatly companies that can contribute to the sustainable growth and diversification of the Botswanan economy, and offer diverse employment opportunities to the Botswanan youth. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Jordi, for giving us this very interesting view on the importance of what diamonds are for the economic life in Botswana, and at the same time, the very good relationship that exists between Belgium and Botswana, especially between Antwerp and Botswana. Thank you. I think it's time to go to our next speaker. He is, I hopefully, still there in South Africa. He's our representative in South Africa, and he is chief executive of Bolloré. And as such, he is responsible for not only South Africa, but for the complete Southern African region. I give the floor to Koen ROMBOUTS.
Good afternoon, thank you. Yes, I'm still here. Thank you
Fantastic.
for thank you for having me, and all protocols are observed. Good afternoon to everybody. I would like to share a brief presentation, which I hope you will see just now. Is it there?
Yes.
Thank you. So I want just very quickly, in the interest of time, indeed, I'm not going to take too much of your time to take us through, okay, this company that I have been working for the last 20 years in different African countries, indeed, and for which I'm currently based in Johannesburg, responsible for Southern Africa, including Botswana. The Bolloré Group is a diversified group, which is, apart from logistics, is also active in communications. If people wonder what Vivendi stands for, Vivendi recently acquired a 12% share in DSTV earlier this year, but is also very active through its group Canal Plus, which is also active in the music industry. And Bolloré has also developed a battery for transport solutions, but also for storage solutions. So this is quite interesting and we implemented in quite a number of African countries for the off-grid solutions with solar panels, whereby then the battery can be part of the solution for the energy storage. It's a long-standing family business since 200 years almost, next year. In the business of the logistics, we have 4 pillars, which is our Bolloré Logistics, which is the freight forwarding business. We have Bolloré Ports, so Bolloré is active in a number of African ports and a number of African railways as well. Apart from that, Bolloré has also oil distribution in France and in Germany. We have a worldwide network which is based on innovation, our services, and of course as well on our CSR and QCC, with a big commitment to our customers. Our group is active worldwide, but what I want to show on this map here is more the presence in Africa, where you can see we have a big presence in Africa and a long history as well in Africa with big investments every year in Africa. We are active in all the different industries related to Botswana with the mining industry and the energy business that is being developed there. We are also quite active in that business. We have, excuse me. We have in Botswana, so I'm going to Botswana now. In Southern Africa, we have our business. I want to stop sharing now. Sorry, there was some error there. So that was so we have in Botswana, we have a setup of 20 people. We have our own offices, our own warehouses there. And why is Botswana from logistics point of view important? I believe is because of its connectivity. The connections between Botswana and the rest of the region are very good. The road network that is being installed there over the years is very well maintained and is very important for the transit. So if you're coming from Southern Africa, can be Zambia, can be DRC, can be South Africa, going to Botswana is your right corridor to get your gateway to get into different countries beyond Botswana. So we use a lot of these corridors, and it's not only from Durban or Johannesburg, but also coming from the Namibia corridor, as well, even including these days, Beira through Zimbabwe. So the road network is very good, very strong. Apart from that, the rail connection with South Africa is established, reasonably well established. It's not always operating perfectly fine, but there is the ICD, which is Gapcom, which is close to Gaborone, from where the containers can be customs cleared and delivered within the country everywhere. The air options going into Botswana is quite important as well. For us, there is good connections, but what works well is that you can use Johannesburg as a hub, and then from Johannesburg you have overnight connections going directly into Botswana, which is in terms of supply chain quite reasonably working well. When it comes to opportunities for logistics companies or any companies that are in this group here available, the mining industry remains very important. There is development indeed in the copper, whereby recently the Komokao mine has started exporting, which is an important development going through the Durban corridor, but as well through the Namibia corridor. There is a new mine, copper mine that's going to be set up, which is also an interesting development for people that want to be involved in any of these developments of a new mine, which is the Moteo mine. And there is, of course, a lot of developments in the energy going from green to other industries, as well as the coal business as well. So I don't want to hold too much, okay, of your time. We have, as a company in Botswana, been there since 1985. We have always worked well, as well with the authorities, from a customs point of view, from the railway point of view. It works well. Taking in consideration, you have to always listen well to the local regulations, follow it very carefully, and we suggest, okay, to be in touch, of course, with the CBL-ACP if you need further information when it comes to that, settling yourself into Botswana. We have been affected badly in 2020, as mentioned earlier as well by the ambassador, by the COVID, which was particularly badly impacted in Botswana. Things are picking up slowly, but we are not there where it was before. So it's growing, but not where we would like it to be yet. That's in brief from me. Thank you very much for having me, and thanks for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koen ROMBOUTS, for speaking about the gateway, not only to Southern Africa, but the rest of Africa. And I can attest that with the operationalization of the Africa Free Trade Area, these opportunities will surely increase. Now we will introduce Mr. MOLEELE, who's the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce in Botswana, which is called Business Botswana. MOLEELE, please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, President of CBL-ACP. Good afternoon, Excellencies, colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. In the interest of saving time, I'm not going to share my screen. My presentation has been shared with the embassy, and I'm sure they can share it with you. And also, I'm going to be very, very brief, considering that a lot of the presentations covered most of what I was going to talk about in terms of the opportunities and challenges are faced by businesses. However, I will do an introduction of our organization and then possibly touch on one or two things, still looking at the issue of time constraints. As introduced, I'm the CEO of Business Botswana. Business Botswana is a private sector organization that is functioning as a chamber of commerce. And we are also an employer federation, and we are a business representative body. And somebody might ask what I mean by all this. As a chamber of commerce, we represent businesses, individual enterprises out there, small, medium, large enterprises, including the informal sector. We represent them, in a policy advocacy capacity, and we also assist them with the capacity building to help those that need, capacity building interventions to improve the way they run their businesses. And we also provide a linkage to the domestic and international markets for our enterprises and our members. And we also are involved in a lot of stakeholder engagement and networking activities in the country as a Chamber of Commerce. And like I said, we do a lot of capacity building for SMEs. We are a member of the International Chamber of Commerce, the Association of Chamber of Commerce and of SADC Chambers of Commerce and Industry, of Business Africa, and SADC Business Council. As an employer federation, ours is to protect the interest of employers. On the labor front, we represent our members, at a policy advocacy level, and we promote sound labor and industrial relations, and we are part of the tripartite structure that is set up in the country. We work very closely with the government on, labor reviews, minimum review boards, and we also work to see to that there is a harmonious industrial relations environment in the country to see to businesses progressing with what they are doing. And we do a lot of capacity building as well on that front. And in that regard, we are a member of the International Organization of Employers, the SADC Private Sector Forum. We are the secretariat for that. And we also work very closely through the Private Sector Forum with the International Labour Organization. And then as a business representative body, we protect the interests of associations. We've got various associations in our membership, which include the Hospitality and Tourism Association, the Chamber of Mines, the Bankers Association, insurance associations, construction associations, you name them. They all are part of our organization. And therefore, we are the first port of call for business in the country. And we are the gateway to business in Botswana for any investor who'd like to invest in Botswana. And we also are the gateway for business into the SADC region through our relationship with ASCI, the Association of SADC Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and the SADC Private Sector Forum, and the SADC Business Council. And I would like to indicate that, as Business Botswana, we take pride in the fact that we have a very good working relationship with government. Our advocacy platform brings us to work very closely with government on various, issues at different levels, at the local level, at the central government level. We stand to represent private sector interest and see to the improvement of the business environment in Botswana. Somebody talked about COVID earlier on, that we were not spared. Certainly we were not spared, and we as private sector felt the brunt of it. There were lockdowns and states of emergencies and all that interrupted with our business activities, but what could we do? We needed to play a part in the fight against the scourge. And one of the things that we did during the COVID interventions, we came up with a private sector recovery plan, which we are looking at implementing post COVID. And in that recovery plan, we've identified 10 sectors. And in this recovery plan, we are looking at it differently from the normal thing where expectation is that government will take the lead in the recovery of business. We are saying here that private sector should be the lead in recovering on its own and to create a robust, economy in the country. Talking about challenges, these have been touched upon. We are talking about a less diversified economy. We are too reliant on diamonds, as has been said, and we need to find a way of diversifying beyond diamonds. And quite a number of sectors have been identified as possible, opportunities for Belgian enterprises to go into. Amongst the other sectors, which I don't recall anybody talking about, is information and communication technology. We are looking at digitizing the country. We're looking at being part of the fourth industrial revolution. And we are saying here are opportunities within this information and communication technology subsector for capacity building for local businesses to become producers in the digital space, for formations of partnerships to bridge the gap on e-commerce, and for provision of adequate innovative infrastructure. These are new tools to offer quality and reliable service, and then digital learning and skills. So those institutions that play in this space, have an opportunity to come on board. Manufacturing has been talked about. and the incentives that go with it. So I will not repeat on that one. And the energy and renewable energy sector has been touched on as well. I don't want us to sound like a broken record. And I would say, in the interest of saving time, like I said, everything else has been touched upon. Let me stop at this point to allow interaction if there is going to be any. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moleele. Thank you for that very insightful presentation. I think we have a space for questions. If anybody who has a question, a burning question, there's a mic up there that will be used for questions and answers. And if there's anybody who is watching us digitally, who's watching us virtually, also they can ask questions. We will receive them and relay them to the presenters. Thank you. The floor is open.
I have at least one question. What about traveling to Botswana in COVID time? What are the COVID measures?
Ambassador, did you want to take that one? Or should I wait for 2 more questions? Perhaps you could take it as more questions are coming.
Okay. Thank you. With respect to the COVID measures, the standards that are applied internationally also apply to Botswana. Essentially, what it means is that prior to departure, one needs to do the test. The 72-hour period applies. On arrival, you would have done the test wherever you come from, say in Europe or anywhere else. And then on arrival, the expectation is that your test is still valid. And ordinarily, if you have tested negative, you are allowed to enter the country, but you still need to be able to observe the period that is considered necessary for you to be free of COVID. So far, we do not have any challenges with arrivals in Botswana, but of course, there are still some challenges with respect to transit because of the nature of the restrictions that are still applicable in airlines or in transit. For the most part, people travel through South Africa, from here through South Africa, and also a lot more through Addis Ababa. But there are also charter flights that can go directly from any part of the world to Botswana, still observing the necessary COVID protocols. But I have a consular officer here who can say more. Same BITC may wish to explain a bit more about how she's practically dealing with interested travelers, be they tourists or those going to buy diamonds in Botswana or any other. Same.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Good afternoon, everybody, once again. But with regards to travel, Botswana has been open to international travel since last year in November. And the requirements are not rigorous. They are very flexible. So all you'll need is just to take a COVID-19 test. It should have been administered within 72 hours of your arrival in Botswana. And as I'm assuming all European nationals, all travelers that are European nationals, you do not need a visa to be able to travel to Botswana. And then once you arrive in the country, there are no restrictions in terms of your movement if you have a valid COVID-19 test. So what will happen usually is upon arrival, you have what is called a rapid test at the airport immediately upon arrival. So with that rapid test, when the results come out, if they're positive, then you'll be required to quarantine. If they're negative, then you're allowed to move around. But what will happen is you'll be required to keep in touch with local health authorities. In Gaborone, there'll be several municipalities that you can talk to. If you're in the tourism region, you're expected to do that as well. So you just keep in touch with them. If you at any point feel that you have any symptoms or you feel like there's an issue, that is the only time that you'll be required to get in touch with them, and then they will make arrangements for you to self-isolate, and if need be, for you to quarantine. But previously there was a mandatory 14-day quarantine that is no longer in place. That is, however, in place if you have traveled to India in the 10 days prior to your travel to Botswana. That is the only time that you'll be required to undergo mandatory quarantine. And previously, there was what is called an interzonal movement, which means that because Botswana has been split into different regions right now because of COVID-19, there's about 8 regions. So if you're traveling from one region to another, previously, you'd have been required to apply for a permit. It's done online. It's an app. You can get it on your Apple Store or on your Android phone. It's called Be Safe app. So previously what you do is you download the app and then just apply online. It's just your details and then it will automatically get a response. But now that has been relaxed and you're allowed to move around freely. So I think generally, if you're interested in traveling to Botswana, you can do so. There'll be very limited to no interruptions to your travel. The only important thing is to make sure you have a negative COVID-19 test within 72 hours of arrival in the country.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Same, and Ambassador, for that very elaborate response. We have, for our guests who are watching us virtually, we have a chat box. When you log in, you can interact and enter your questions in the chat box. We are also available, you can still enter them. We are also available that after this meeting, we can still continue to interact. We can still continue to answer your questions after this meeting is over. I will now open the floor for 2 more questions before we now wrap up, close the event. Thank you. I see that there are no questions.
Yep.
I can see that the presentations were very, very clear. We understood everything, but we hope that this is the beginning of more interactions between yourselves and the embassy, between yourselves and Botswana. We are open, we are available. I think we have provided you with our addresses and our contact information so that we can continue even through ACP, CBL to have the conversation that will hopefully convince you to invest in Botswana in the future. Thank you very much. There is a question here.
I wanted to know if it's a potassium brine or salt brine. You spoke about the brine project at some point, and what kind of brine is that? Is it just salt brine or potassium containing, or?
Do you recall the presenter who did that?
Would it have been the mining?
Mining.
Or Mr. MUGOMBA?
Yes, that would be me. I hope you can hear me better now.
Yes.
Yes, it's the salt brine. When we don't understand that, or not aware that it's got any sort of like lithium, for example. But certainly, if you want more detail, we can get it for you, and then maybe even connect you with the particular owners of that particular asset.
Thank you, Mr. Mugomba. And if there are no more questions, we will then close this event.
Yep.
I will give the floor now to my co-facilitator.
Okay, thanks very much. I think it's maybe time for the ambassador if he wants to say something, or our chairman.
I've spoken at some length. I would give it to the chairman.
Well, it's not too much to add to such an interesting and complete presentation. I just have to thank all the participants. Personally, I was very happy to know a lot more about a country I know, I love, but you have also to go further in this, in the new love, I will say. So thank you for everybody. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Excellencies, there in Gaborone. And I say, see you soon, maybe in Gaborone.
Thank you.